Jenny Yang is the Vice President of Advocacy and Policy with the humanitarian organization World Relief. She joins us now with more. Jenny, as George Thomas was just reporting, U.S. Customs and Border Patrol has detained more than 800,000 people on our southern border. So how does this Supreme Court ruling really affect these people?
Well, the Supreme Court ruling, it's important to remember, doesn't determine the legality of the final rule in asylum. What it does do is say that while the litigation is taking place, that the rule can actually go into effect. We think that if the rule, and as the rule goes into effect, that it's going to affect thousands of individuals who have a legitimate claim to seek asylum in the United States of America and have a well-founded fear of persecution. We know of individuals that have been traveling through Central America and through Mexico to arrive to the United States. Are legally awaiting the ability to state their claim for asylum in the United States. And no matter how meritorious their claim is or how substantive their story of persecution is, what this rule effectively does is entirely eliminates the ability for them to actually seek asylum in the United States of America because they didn't seek asylum somewhere else first. We think that this rule will actually effectively not have individuals who do have a legitimate claim from being able to seek the protection of the United States of America, which could mean that thousands of these individuals, as you were saying, who are waiting to state their claim will effectively be denied from gaining the protection of the United States.
Jenny, I'm wondering if this ruling effectively does stop a lot of migrants from pursuing U.S. asylum. Might that help to clear out our clogged immigration courts?
It's true that we do have a backlog of many individuals who are waiting to get their asylum cases heard in immigration court, but this rule would not necessarily deter those individuals from trying to come into the United States in the first place. So many of these individuals, I think what we're effectively seeing is the narrowing of a window for these individuals to gain protection in the United States. Many of these individuals will probably end up stuck in Mexico or maybe some places in Central America. But what we know about what's happening in Mexico and many parts of Central America is that first, they don't have the resources and the infrastructure to process many of these asylum claims, whereas in the United States, we have a larger capacity to do so. But secondly, what we also know is that in Mexico, specifically, many of these individuals that are seeking protection do not feel safe in Mexico. In fact, many of them are targeted. We personally know at World Relief of a Cuban pastor, in Mexico who was ministering to Cuban asylum seekers. And when he was doing that, he was specifically targeted by the cartels in that area for doing this kind of ministry. And so he felt unsafe, and the asylum seekers also felt unsafe. And so
it's really sad to hear that. I want to ask you, too, the Supreme Court ruling is just temporary. A legal challenge to the Trump policy continues. When might that be decided, and any thoughts on how it might go?
Well, we're not sure when the ruling will actually happen. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is actually taking up this case right now, so it could be months. And during this time, this rule will actually be in effect. And so I think the end result on a humanitarian basis is that we're effectively closing the door for asylum seekers who are arriving by foot to come into the United States. And we're going to see probably a huge decline in those numbers being able to claim asylum in the U.S.
Wow. All right. Jenny Yang with World Relief, thank you so much for your time.
Welcome.